Hey guys, welcome back to new video, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can use Ktor Client in your Android project. What is Ktor Client? Ktor Client is a third-party library using which you can perform network communication with your backend using REST APIs. So let's get started with our project, how we can actually use Ktor Client and perform network request call. So for that, first thing first, go to your build Gradle KTS and add all of these dependency. So first two dependency is for the Ktor Client. Then we have two dependency for the serialization. We have content negotiation, which is actually used to negotiate the content. Then we have last two dependency for the logging. If you want to log all of your information in your logcat, which is related to the network request call, you can do that thing by using these two dependencies. So we'll see how to use it. So we are done with our dependencies, and on the top, make sure to add serialization plugin. Go to your Android manifest and make sure to add this internet permission. You will get all of these things, these dependencies and the initial project from my GitHub repository link present in the description box. So let's begin with our project. So first thing first, let me show you the website. So this is a website that will provide us a lot of endpoints. And using this, you can actually practice your backend communication with the help of Ktor Client. So when you click on this, so we have get request, we have post, put, patch, delete. So all these are the HTTP methods. Let's click on this /post. As you can see, this will provide us a JSON response, and in this JSON response we are receiving a JSON array contains a homogeneous object, and I will call this object post. So this is my endpoint. So simply copy this endpoint, come back to our project. So first let me create a package, and the package name is client, and in this client I'm going to create a class, and the class name is Ktor Client. So we have here an companion object, but on the top of this let me paste the endpoint that we have been just copying from the Chrome browser. Okay, so in this companion object I'm going to create a function, and the return type of this function is HTTP client. Use here HTTP client, and in this HTTP client we are going to install few things. So first let me install the content negotiation, because we want to negotiate content with our backend in a form of JSON. So we have successfully installed the content negotiation, and this content negotiation will be happen with the help of JSON. So use here JSON. In this we have two parameter, JSON and content type. So first I want to use this JSON, and in this JSON you can include some extra information. So I'm using here ignore unknown keys to true. So that's it, the first installment for our HTTP client, which is content negotiation, and these are the properties our content negotiation will have. Okay, so next we are going to install the HTTP timeouts, and in this timeout we have three timeouts. Socket timeout millis, which is 3 seconds in our case. Then we have a request timeout millis, which is 3 seconds, and lastly we have connection timeout. I'm using here 3 seconds. Okay, so this is the timeout. Next I want to install default request, and in this default request we are going to mention all of the most important things. So first we have here URL, and in this URL we are going to attach our host. So in our case my host is jsonplaceholder.typecode.com. so simply copy this stuff, paste in here. Next the protocol. So as you can see, jsonplaceholder.typecode.com will have HTTPS. That means it uses HTTPS protocol. So for that use here URL protocol.https, and that's it. Now let's say you want to add few headers. So for that we have here headers DSL, and in this you can simply append your headers. So for the headers we have a lot of things over here, http headers.authorization, and when you control click on this authorization you can see we have a lot of headers over here. So you can use according to your use case. So I'm using here authorization and pass some gibberish. So this is the default request, and this default request will contain our host and the type of protocol that we are using in our communication, and the headers that you want to include in all of your HTTP request calls. Okay, and lastly I'm going to install my logging, which is actually used to log all of the information related to the network communication. So first we have to mention our logger. So logger is coming from logger.android. Then we have to decide the label, and label is coming from log label dot. As you can see, we have a lot of things. We have all, body, headers, info, none, and I'm gonna use here all because I want to see all of the information related to the backend communication. So this will give our HTTP client, and using which HTTP client you can perform all of the requests like get, put, post, patch, delete. So let's begin with our get, but before that, this is our API, and as you can see in here, this is a get request. So we are going to perform a get HTTP request to get all of this information. But before that, first, as you can see, this is a JSON array, and in this JSON array we have a homogeneous object, and I'm gonna call this object as post. So simply copy this thing up, come back to your project and create a model corresponding to this JSON. So we have model package, and in this model package I'm gonna use this plugin Kotlin data class file from JSON. You can get this plugin from marketplace. Simply paste your JSON and call this post. Open your model. So this is our post. Make sure to annotate this thing with serializable, otherwise your application will crash during the network request call. Go to your Ktor client, and here I'm going to create a suspend function naming get post. A return type of this thing is list of post. Use get client to get your HTTP client. Now I'm going to perform here get request, and in this get request, as you can see on the top, we have this endpoint. So this is already included in a form of host in our default request. Now we have to only mention this part because this is our endpoint, which is actually used to decide which API you want to trigger. So use here post and use body to retrieve the body list of post. Okay, so this is our type, and simply return this thing up. Now it's time to use get post in our main activity. So go to your main activity, and at the bottom I'm going to create a composable, and the composable name is main content, and in its main content I'm going to pass my list of post. So this will contain a lazy column that has modifier fill max size. We have items in it. Pass your list and create a proper list item for your post. But before that, let me make few space for you. On the top we have column having modifier, padding of 12 dp. We have fill max width. Let me import this dp first. And in this, on the top we have text, which is actually used to show the ID of our post. Then below to it we have a spacer having modifier. Height of this thing is 8 dp. Again we have text, which is actually used to show the title. So it dot title. In the style I'm using here material theme typography, body large. Again I'm gonna use here spacer having modifier height of 8 dp. Just below to it we have one more text, and this time I'm gonna show the body. Style of this thing is material theme typography, body medium will work. Okay, so simply use main content in here. Pass the modifier and the list. So for the list, on the top I'm gonna create a state, mutable state of empty list, and type of this list is post. Just import, and I'm gonna use here launch effect. So in this train lambda we are receiving a new coroutine, and in this coroutine I'm gonna execute my Ktor client dot get post and simply update our posts. Pass your post in here. So first let me create modifier. Padding is coming from inner padding that we are receiving from this scaffold trailing lambda. So inner padding, fill max size, and in place of list I'm gonna pass my state post. Alright, so we are pretty much done, and make sure to check whether you are taking the internet permission or not. So yes, we did. Now execute your application. As you can see, it is working. Now it's time to see how we can actually use post request in HTTP. So for that, go to your Ktor client and just create one more function, which is post. and in this I'm gonna post my post, and in return it will return the same post that you have been passing over here. Because it's a fake API, and due to that reason it will give you this same post in order to check whether your request is performing successfully or not. So first use get client to grep the HTTP client. In this we have post method. So we have two techniques. Either you are using this small bracket to pass your URL, or we have one more approach. You can simply use here URL DSL, and in this URL you can append the path. So this time I'm going to use this approach. So in this path simply use your posts. As you can see in our website we have post, and this is the endpoint. Okay, so it will work. So I want to send a post body in this post request. So if you want to do that, you should mention the content type, and this content type is coming from content type.application JSON, because first your post will be converted into JSON and then only it will go to the backend APIs. So we have successfully set up our content. Now it is time to pass the body. So use here set body and simply pass it, and in return you can simply get the same post body that you have been passing from this function. Return it. Now it's time to use it. So simply copy this stuff, come back to your main activity, and in our launch effect block I'm gonna create a variable naming post. Use your Ktor client dot post, and in this just create a new post. Alt enter to mention all of the name. So in place of body I'm gonna send body, in place of ID I'm passing 1, in place of title I'm passing title, in place of user ID I'm passing 2. So this is my body, and in return I'm gonna use here logcat to see the information. So post, and just stringify this tag. Cool. Simply execute your application. Open your logcat. Alright, so this is our post body, and this is the response. As you can see, both are same. So body ID 101. So ID 101, title, user ID. That means our post request will be successfully processed by our backend API. Now it's time to see how we can perform other operations. So we are done with our post. It's time to see how we can use patch. So we have two methods to update our post. We have put, we have patch, and the main difference between put patch is, so patch is actually used when you want to update only one field in your body, and put will simply replace all of the information which is present in your post body. So let's see how we can use patch. So in this patch I'm gonna pass map. Type of this thing is string. Next we have to pass the ID, and in return this will simply return the post. So first return get client. This will give our HTTP client, and this time I want to use here I think patch. So use here patch. Use the same mechanism that we were using for the post. As you can see in our URL we have patch. Okay, and in this patch we have to pass the post and its ID. Okay, two things. So just copy this stuff, come back to your project, and in the URL this time in the path we should add two things. First the post, and then the actual ID that we are receiving from our function. Okay, so this is for the URL. Next we have to set the content type. Next we have to mention the content type. So content type is again content type dot application dot JSON. Set your body, and in this body I'm gonna pass my map. Okay, return type of this function is body which contain the post. Okay, so we are done with this patch. Now it's time to use it. So go to your main activity, and in this main activity just below to your post I'm gonna create a patch. Use our Ktor client dot patch, and in this map I'm gonna create a map. So we have key value pair. So this is our key and this is our value. So let's say I'm gonna use the key title and want to update with some gibberish. Okay, so this is my map, and I'm using here ID 1. Okay, so you can't use here comma in your map, you should use here 2. Okay, so now it's time to show you in the logcat the information related to the patch. So simply use your patch over here and you can just stringify this tag. Okay, so now it's time to execute our application to see whether it is working or not. Open up your logcat. Okay, so in our onCreate we are receiving the post, and in our onCreate patch we are receiving the post. So if you see the body won't change, only the title will change. If you see over here, the title is something different that we are passing over here. As you can see, it is identical. So by using this approach, you can actually pass a specific field to your patch request to update it. Now it's time to see how we can use put request with the help of Ktor Client. So there is no difference with that. Simply copy this stuff, paste in here. Instead of calling this patch, you can call this put, and this time you can't pass a single thing. If you are passing a single key value pair, it will simply update all of the other bodies too. So let me show you how it works. So we have here use here put, and if you see the APIs for the put, it is pretty much same. Okay, so we have everything same, just we did for the patch. Now see the difference in this. Go to your main activity, and instead of using here patch, just create one more variable naming put, create a Ktor Client, use here put and pass the same things. Create a new logcat, and this time it is related to the put. Simply use here put, execute it. As you can see, we have a problem, and the problem is illegal input field body user ID are required for the type with serial name post, because this time we are using put, and input you should pass the complete body that you want to be used corresponding to the user ID one. So if you change this map with post, and instead of passing the map, you can pass post and come back to your main activity, simply copy this post, come back to your put and paste it over here. And instead of body, I'm using here body put. Instead of title, I'm using here title put, and re-execute our application. As you can see, this time our application won't crash, and in the logcat I'm using here put to see what is the response. So this time you can see body is body put, ID is title, and this time you can see body is body put, ID is 1, title will come title put, and user ID is 3. So this is our body and this is our response. So put, body put, ID 1, title put, user ID 3. So this is the main difference between put and patch. So lastly, we are going to see how to use delete in our Ktor client. So open up your Ktor client, suspend function, delete. And if you can open this delete endpoint, you can see we have to just mention the post slash the user ID, that post ID that you want to delete. So for that, simply pass your ID, and in response we are receiving HTTP response, return get client. This time I'm gonna use here delete. We have here URL, and the path of URL is slash posts slash. You have to mention the ID that you want to delete, and yeah, that's it. So this will simply delete the post from backend and give you the HTTP response, and HTTP response will contain all of the information. So let's use this thing. Go to your main activity, and here I'm using delete. Okay, use your Ktor client dot delete, and I want to delete the first post. Use logcat to show the information related to the deletion. Delete dot we have here a lot of things like call, request, raw content, request time, response time, status. We have here code too, I believe. Okay, so we have here status dot code. So this will give us the status code. If it is 200, that means it is successfully deleted. Okay, so execute our application. Open up the logcat. Instead of using here put, you can use here delete. As you can see, it is 200. That means our post is successfully deleted. Okay, open up your website. Now let's see how you can actually trigger this kind of APIs. Right click, open this thing in a new tab, and this is the response. Okay, as you can see, the response is homogeneous. So this is a JSON array that contains a homogeneous JSON object. So I'm gonna simply copy this body, come back to our project, and in our model I'm gonna create one more model, and the model name is comment. Okay, so make sure to annotate your comment with serializable. Open up your Ktor client, and now let's see how we can actually use this API in our project. Suspend function, get comments. So for the comment we have to pass the post. Return type of this thing is list of comment, and make sure this comment is coming from our model package. On the top I'm gonna paste the endpoint. So this is already included. We have to play with this point. So let's see how we can use it. So first, get client dot get. Use here URL block, and in this URL block you have to mention your path. So path is /comments. So this is our path. Next we have query. So for the query you have to use here parameter, and in this parameter you have to mention the key. So the key is, sorry, not comments, key is post ID, and next you have to pass the value. So value is ID that we are receiving from here. So this is our URL. Now use body, and the return type of this thing is a list of comment. Return this information. Lastly, use this thing in your main activity. So in our main activity I'm gonna grep the all comments from post 1. Ktor client dot get comments, post ID is 1, and lastly I'm gonna create a logcat to see the information related to the comments. Just use here stringify tag. Okay, so execute it. Open up your logcat, and instead of using here delete, use here comment. As you can see, these are the comments that we are receiving from our backend. Alright, so now it's time to see how we can use headers in our Ktor client. So if you want to use header, you can do that thing very easily by using this approach. And let's see whether this header is attached to our request or not. So to show that, go to the logcat, and instead of using here comment, you can simply use here authorization. As you can see, authorization, and the value of authorization header is this. Alright, so that's it for this video. I hope you like this video. It's a very simple video, but at the same time, if you are going to use Ktor client, these are the things that you should know. We will meet in our next video where we will discuss something new about Android. Till that, goodbye.